So I need to do this quickly because we need to talk about the documents that I gave you the other day, and I need to give you the information you need for the essay, which will be due on the 27th, which is Monday. Not this Monday, the following Monday, which means that while I'm not going to be here next week, you will see me before it's due, because I will see you on that Monday when I get back. So come and get your quiz. Eunice? Thomas?
I am so surprised.
Alexander? Teresa? The 27th, October? 10 May?
Wow, this is... I thought she said N. That's me.
Oh, you just said yes.
She said no. Hello, this is me.
Catherine? Lucian?
Battery. Wow, I hate myself.
Me too, bud. I need you to say that's not me.
That's not me.
Sohail?
That's not me.
You're way too heavy. Josh?
I feel so distant from the class.
You feel so what?
Far away.
Oh, we can fix that. Derek?
I just see this hair.
Jessica? Amanda?
Contrary to
Amy?
this one is shorter, but I guess I have.
Ayush?
So just sort of drew a line. Oh my god. I don't know what that means. Thanks.
I said lack of light.
She likes to pronounce Jay Quellen.
Sybil? Sierra?
Whoa, that's a lot of words.
Oh. To check the line. Because you couldn't read it. You couldn't clearly read it.
Lucian?
I didn't even know you. You wasn't said.
How fucking hyped are you for college? Because I'm ready, and I spent 4.5 hours working on Hall Trailer yesterday, and I'm terrible. Well, you know what they say? No. What do they say? Tell me what they say. They say... What do they say? They say, no gods, no master. You won't care. That's all I can think of. Why does he have
students,
a bow tie? What kind of fucking...
in order to put your information in order to turn in your essay, you're going to need this information. You're going to be class ID, yes, at turnitin.com, 147. That's your Turnitin class ID. Your password, what did I use? Because of today. Your password will be Webster.
No.
Yes.
Why?
Did you have the Webster document?
I did.
That's why.
147534.
Oh! No. I'm so sorry. I'm so surprised by that.
This morning's class got everything.
Red capital W. I think.
That's a capital W.
Oh, really? Oh, I was
So make sure if you look in Moodle, up at the very top of Moodle, you're going to see that not only do you have all the resources that you need, I have a checklist for your essay. Those questions I ask you to make sure, did you do these things? Okay? Make sure you look at the checklist in Moodle before before you are working on your paper, and then make sure you have everything accounted for. Okay? because I'm not going to be here next week, obviously, you hopefully will make some progress, but I will see you before you turn it in because it will be due on that Monday when we get back.
Do it at what time?
11:30 actually.
Maybe that's
11:30.
Wait,
That's when internet goes off for sophomores.
Oh, not, I have a hotspot, you can wait that.
Not gonna happen.
For why?
I'm really making 30 the next one.
11:52.
You're gonna have to adjust your schedule.
It's a cuddle buddy. 11:30.
I have often students, so, except for a couple of you where there was either a technical problem or you didn't submit it, I put in scores for everyone turning in the first step I asked you for. In some cases, I left comments, so you might want to actually look to see what I wrote. Sometimes I ask you questions, though a lot of you I didn't necessarily say anything. So what we need to do today is work through the rest of these documents I gave you the other day. And did we get to talking about the first group?
That's the other side.
Yeah, we
did. So tell me about women and the revolution.
Oh, that was.
Women were essential to the war in terms of the boycotts and substituting goods and so on. But after the war, then there's these big questions. Who had this group?
Women?
One of you carrying the whole weight. How unfortunate and how typical.
No. Okay. Trying to remember things from so long ago. So the part I did, there was this guy, and he drew this picture of women signing a pledge to like boycott. Okay, I need to find
You
the.
look at one of the graphics.
Yes.
I'm gonna take a shortcut on the graphics and tell people to look at them. But with the graphics, one is a very negative view of women's involvement. The other one, which is kind of interesting, is the one about the compass. It uses Masonic imagery of the Freemasons, and makes this statement about, here, I have it up here. The assumptions back then, maybe I didn't share this before, are that civilization and reason and men are all part of the same thing. And there's but there's a hierarchy, and at the bottom are women, children, nature, and the irrational. And when you look at documents, whether it's the graphics here or any number of documents where people are writing things about these issues, you can actually see the way the hierarchy is influencing how they're thinking about things. Actually, unfortunately, in 2017, you can still see some of this, but in either case.
Did the person who made it, was you a Freemason?
In that case,
Yeah.
probably there were a lot of there are lots of stories about Freemasons. I read one about officers on opposite sides of the war, of British Freemason and American Freemason, and basically, if you were a Freemason, you can get a pass, so to speak.
That's fair.
What do you mean?
It happened. Well, the British officer didn't end up killing the American because he flashed him a Freemason sign in the woods.
Oh, I think that's it.
That's fair. That's fair.
Don't know, it's a Freemason. It's a
Was it
secret
like
society.
Like a sign?
No, like a gang sign.
Oh.
Why don't you become a Freemason?
Like this one. Aren't you used to seeing it?
Yeah, I'm sure that's the one he had. We all know. I think we all know which one Roger would do. Never mind.
You have to be invited in.
I literally just meant the
You have to be invited in.
Yeah. Oh, that's your foot. I'm sorry. I thought it was the chair.
I don't know what.
Yeah,
Yes.
but not in the same way. It's not important anymore. Now it's just for a bunch of old dudes who are like, I don't need to be a kid anymore. Yes. We walked on the ground with our
They
bears.
do have halls, like in downtown Geneva, right in the center
My bare
of
feet, I mean
downtown, there's
feet
the
from a bear that I killed with my bare hands.
Hold on, we're going to halls. Tell me more about women.
So there was the New Jersey Voting Act of 1790. So like it implicitly allowed women to vote. Like it just said as long as you have property and some other like basic requirements, you could vote. But then they changed it in 1807.
Right. So in New Jersey, women actually are permitted to vote there until 1807. If they own property, and it raises the question: so, what happened? They actually, yes, women could vote. Women and men were equal if they owned property in New Jersey until 1807. And what happened in 1807 was that the Federalists, I'm going to talk about the parties later. The Federalists decided that they had a better chance of winning in 1808 if they took away the right to vote of the women who, in their opinion, had voted the wrong way in 1806.
That's fair.
It's voter suppression.
That's totally how that should work.
Well,
It doesn't defeat the purpose of it.
for what it's worth, the Federalist Party dies by 1816.
The woman is right to vote after
No, unfortunately, that doesn't get recovered until a century later.
You look at this very long sentence. That's one sentence. Yeah.
Some places this isn't even the case. Again, women documents. Tell me about Benjamin Rush.
It seems like he was supportive of women.
Women's education. Why is he supportive of women's education?
He said women should be able to help men in like their forms of work wherever they need assistance, so they should be educated as well.
Oh, so only as assistants.
Once you overthrow the monarchy and you're going to form your own government, you need the next generation to be as committed to keeping the government going as you are. And the only way to do that, in that period, there is no universal education. Mothers are the universal education. So therefore, the women need to be educated in proper democratic values so that they can pass it down to their kids, and that their kids will be as interested in keeping the democracy going. Because if it doesn't happen, you're going to end up with nothing working out in the long term. And Rush is appreciative of this. Rush is the only doctor to sign on his passion. What other documents we have? What about what about Abigail Adams and John Adams?
So basically, Abigail Adams, she would stay at home and like live over the family home while John Adams was like outright the and that's why she was very passionate about like the liberty of everyone, and she was writing a lot. And there was like a certain part where she told us to remember the ladies when she was writing the new law.
So this is like one of the most famous lines in American women's history that Abigail Adams during the Revolution writes to John and says, "Remember the ladies." And what's her next line about that?
Like be more generous and serviceable to them than you're in.
Otherwise, the women will rise up in rebellion against the patriarchy. There is this. She's writing this to her husband, right? Who's at the center of the revolution, and she's being, on the one hand, she's kind of teasing him, and on the other hand, she's totally serious.
That makes sense.
No,
Typical.
very intellectual.
Well, and she really was. You know, for instance, David McCulloch, who wrote the biography of Adams, which becomes the HBO series. Abigail was very well educated herself and really an intellectual in her own right. But because of the way the division of labor was created at the time, she doesn't really have an outlet, and she just ends up being John's wife rather than her own person. She ends up writing a very influential letter. What is John's reaction? Yes.
Okay, Aaron's like John's always not confused.
Yes. So John has received his letter from his wife and is now writing to his friend John Sullivan.
When he does like the one thing that the rules and ends about last supposed to be one particular, it's not to commit to, and every man is not the farthing than again to what any other thing. Basically saying like the he's still like the moving women can't open like they're like nurturing like visually.
He says, well, we have to have limits. As soon as we start expanding like who is a full citizen and has the right to vote, then we'll have to expand it to everyone, including the children, and that's not going to work. And he falls back on this understanding of the world to say, well, clearly these people are not capable of really making informed decisions, so we're just going to exclude them. Which is unfortunate because, of course, he has this very influential wife. But that's what he writes to his friend. And we get some of the same arguments when it comes to the poor, so people without property. Now remember, Locke's position, life, liberty, and property is absolutely the foundation for Locke's thinking. Now, some people will say, well, what about the life and liberty part? Property is only part of that. But there were other people who took the property aspect totally literally, and they didn't see how somebody who didn't own property could possibly be committed to a Republican system. And so tell us, there are several documents there, tell us about these. Where's the poor man movie?
Okay, so I read the argument about the one that Alex made and he said that like people who have property, like clearly people what is that? Wait, I can't think of the English word. Like I guess cemetery right people like
People without property?
people with property. Like they had like really wrong.
What does he say about people without property?
Without property. I didn't
No, I think you have it reversed. He sees people with property as having absolutely every right in a pure Lockean way to be able to vote and have full citizenship. But people without property, he distrusts, and it's greatly ironic because you all know that Hamilton comes from nothing himself, but he sees himself as having aspired to this higher position, and therefore, if somebody really wants full citizenship, they should follow his lead.
New Jersey document.
And what happens in New Jersey?
Well,
Those people give women the right to vote too.
yeah, they said, I think this document said that the poor people don't have any hand in the government, and that they should have like some part of the government because they have like representation.
So New Jersey seems to have a very democratic mindset, and they have a very different set of ideas about this.
I have the one about Thomas Warnick, which is in like Massachusetts, and it was basically objecting Article 5 of the new Constitution. It basically gave every white male the right to vote, but didn't give like other people the right to vote. And they basically like, based their objection on the fact that people are born equal and they have like unalienable rights that should be taken away from them.
So they're going back to the Declaration to say this is what the revolution is about, therefore everyone should be part of this. Again, rejecting a purely Lockean idea about the problem. And then,
I had a Daniel Webster one.
and what does he say?
But he says that all men should be educated, and he really enjoys education a lot.
Well, okay, he's committed to education in the same way that we heard that women should be educated in order to get the next generation educated. Webster would say, well, it's not about whether or not people own property, it's about whether or not they've been educated in a mindset where they actually accept the whole precepts of being in a democratic society. Because if you do that, then it's fine. He was very optimistic about it. So he would say, yes, don't worry about property. Like you can imagine Webster and Hamilton showing up at the same party and seeing each other and walking in the opposite direction.
At the same time.
Not if Ehrenberg gets there first.
Whoa.
Then let's stop.
Yes.
Oh my god, let's do E.D. Sedgwick, damn it.
That is what Chernow argues Hamilton didn't actually intend to shoot Burr. Burr was very determined to shoot Hamilton.
But he has bad Did they have
Muskets?
No, they had.
Oh, they were pistols, but they load like muskets. So there must be.
Were they small?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there were sniper bullets. 20 caliber.
Weren't invented until.
It is determined you're taking conflict.
I am.
Hopefully, well, he will be able to answer your question. Hopefully, are there any more about poor men? Yes.
I read the document in Pennsylvania packet, and it basically said that common people shouldn't have any role in political decision making, and all the rich people should have the job.
So, if I didn't tell you before, Philadelphia was an incredibly diverse city. If you, when John Adams, John Adams basically never, I'll exaggerate slightly, he never really left the county. He kind of grows up in Massachusetts, never really goes anywhere, spends his whole life eating, English cookies, like his favorite meat, favorite vegetable, until they're tasteless, and periodically, enjoying the local ale, because that's the only alcohol that they have. He shows up in Philadelphia, and suddenly, there's food and cuisine of every variety. And he writes to his wife, "Wow, Philadelphia is incredible. There are people of every variety. They have great food. Oh, by the way, I'm enjoying this great beer that I had no idea existed." Philadelphia is an interesting place, but and this is the place Benjamin Franklin is publishing. This is the place that Thomas Paine is joining that, diverse culture. Apparently, when it comes to property, however, there are some very lofty notions that are still very much alive. What was the other one?
I read the document on John Adams to John Sullivan.
Oh, right. So it's the same letter, but it says something about the poor as well. What does it say?
It talks about how, basically stressing the fact about how women and children shouldn't be allowed to vote. It talks about how people, men that don't have property and stuff, they also shouldn't be allowed to vote. Basically for the same reasons that he gives for the women and children.
So Adams again taking that very Lockean idea, but then also within the constraints that I outlined for you. If we go to the dissenters and the non-Protestants, let's talk about Philadelphia again. Who has one about Philadelphia?
So it was the Philadelphia Synagogue. It was basically the Pennsylvania Constitution proposed that there was no religious test on voting, but elected officials had to they had to say that they had to acknowledge the divine inspiration of the Christian Bible, and Jewish people didn't like that. They rejected it.
So there's actually this religious text that's built into the holding of office, and because they're Jews, they're not Christian, but we're very much part of this revolution too. So why are we being excluded? Again, Philadelphia, very, very, very diverse, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the prevailing opinion is necessarily included everyone. Although we would expect it in the long term, hopefully it will. And what do we get from other people who are going through similar situations?
In Massachusetts, the payroll acts that he covers worship as long as it didn't affect public
So when we come back from, next week, after next week, when we come back, I'm going to talk about the Constitution, and part of that would be the First Amendment. And the thing about the religion component of the First Amendment, I think the most interesting, I would say correct, reading of it is that, remember the English Civil War? What was the Protestant Catholic situation there?
English and
They're fighting against each other, and there's this constant conflict. You get in Massachusetts Puritans who we've seen on some ways, they have these kind of they have the Christian charity notions, but then they're also very closed. Yes, we have these ideas, but by the way, if you have a different opinion, then you don't belong in our colony. And that's eventually going to break down. But this issue of living in a society where people have different religions is going to be a constant issue. And so the interpretation of the religious component of the First Amendment, I think is the most suitable, says it's about protecting your religion from all other religions somehow dominating you. In other words, all of them will be treated exactly equally. Kind of like the states all getting 2 senators. All religions are equal in this regard, and none of them should be given more importance than any other. And this is kind of playing out here. What else do we have?
In Virginia, Thomas Jefferson writes that nobody can be forced to follow any religion, any particular religion, so you can't force people into lines of faith on the basis that everyone was created with a free mind so that people can choose.
Yeah, Jefferson is definitely playing with that. And remember, I told you Jefferson is also somebody who has edited the Bible. Yes?
What about children?
Me too.
Children?
Yeah, what about children? Because people forcing their children into religion, it's normal. Do children have the right to be forced into religion?
That's a really interesting question. I have a friend who is a trained lawyer. He went to Yale Law School, and I remember asking him a family law question some years ago, and he said, the thing about the elite law schools like Yale or Harvard is that nobody goes into family law. And so all these questions that deal with relationship, family law would deal with divorces, rights of children, that stuff. They're not even asking these questions. We generally see children as minors, and the parents are ultimately given all kinds of leeway in raising their children. And so that's an interesting theoretical question, but I don't know where it actually exists. I mean, in terms of in terms of literature, I don't know. So he's against this idea of having a religious test for people hold public office. People should be allowed to hold public office regardless of what their opinions are.
Maybe
I had the Senate voters talks to the Massachusetts one, and not everyone agreed with it. One group of people thought it was like not restrictive enough, and another group thought it was too restrictive. And some of they said no objections, and like they were like about like how in the article it says how school board government depends on religion, and they said how like there was government and stuff before religion and stuff. And then they talked about how there's something about teachers and how to elected teachers, and they opposed it because they thought that you should be able that you shouldn't have to pay for a teacher that they goes over here.
Yes.
Well, I had South Carolina. They were all it was made so the only religion they could have was the Christian religion. So you expect to publicly worship God. And my big thing. You only have the one God. You have to publicly worship Him. Christian religion, the true religion, the Holy Scriptures are divine inspiration and the full faith and practice. That is the lawful duty of every man to bear witness to the truth.
This is the first of 3 moments you will see over the course of this semester in which South Carolina has very strong opinions that are not necessarily the prevailing opinions, but ultimately they're also troublemakers. South Carolina, troublemakers, as you're going to see.
It's kind of strange. They want you to publicly worship because, in the Bible, they say stuff about, it says stuff about God not wanting you to.
Well, in this case, they want you to do that so that they know for certain that you are a Christian. That way you don't,
fake it.
I suppose you could, but you'd be doing it in public.
That's why you have a public worship. But you could
Yeah.
What's that? Well, and it's usually also you're not supposed to do it. I mean, yeah, but it's intentional.
It's just a clarifying question.
Yeah.
But who was the one that said that all religions are equal?
Well, it shows up in a few of them. The one she's mentioning is the Massachusetts debate stuff.
Okay.
So here's the big takeaway here. So the revolution we saw, the Declaration, has a very specific set of ideas. Here the people are asking the question, in many cases, after the revolution. So what was it exactly that we fought for if a bunch of us are going to be excluded? Thomas Paine had strong opinions about freedom for slaves, and I told you that's not necessarily a popular position. Here are these debates about what was the revolution about. And so if you are interested, you can probably pull this into any number of things, but in particular one about ideas. Okay? Have a good extended, and then extended from American studies. Make sure you come to class. There will be people taking attendance. Dr. Skinner has always he's really excited about he may do that. Hey Josh.
I am Josh.
I have like 5 and 6 on my
Have a good break.
Don't tell me